I'll get your movie recommendation in a couple minutes, but I wanted to touch briefly on this NFL thing because it's terrible, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. But I wanted to set it up by playing a guy. I'm a Celtics guy, but I really do like the Warriors, and I like Steve Kerr, and I just wanted to play this clip. I don't know if you've seen it or heard this yet, but we're going to play this clip of him. This is Golden State Warriors coach Steve Kerr reacting to the NFL's suppression of free speech of their players. Play it, get your reaction to it, Ben Mankiewicz, after it's over.
Reaction to the anthem.
I think it's just typical of the NFL. They're just playing to their fan base, and they're just, basically trying to use the anthem as fake patriotism, nationalism, scaring people. It's idiotic, but that's how the NFL has handled their business. And I'm proud to be in a league that understands patriotism in America is about free speech, about peacefully protesting. And I think our leadership in the NBA understands that when the NFL players were kneeling, they were kneeling to protest police brutality, to protest racial inequality. They weren't disrespecting the flag or the military, but our president decided to make it about that. The NFL followed suit, pandered to their fan base, created this hysteria. This is kind of what's wrong with our country right now. Is that, people in high places are trying to divide us, divide loyalties, make this about the flag, as if the flag is something other than what it really is. It's a representation of what we're about, which is diversity, peaceful protests, and abilities, right to free speech. So it's really ironic, actually, what the NFL is doing.
Ben.
Yes.
What do you think? Perfect, right?
Well, Steve Kerr, Greg Popovich, who would have said essentially the same thing that coach of the Spurs. They are setting the standard for how coaches should behave, and then and they're both brilliant coaches. And then you look at this brilliant NFL coach, Bill Belichick, who decides on November 2nd, I'm going to write Donald Trump a letter and tell him how great he is. Yep. And the letter that Belichick wrote sounded like it would have been written by Trump's doctor. I mean, it literally was. So you're like, I thought it wasn't true because I thought Bill Belichick's not that dumb.
Right.
So he's, of course, completely right. There is irony that it's coming from a head coach in the NBA, a league that requires the players to stand for the anthem. It just sort of shows, but that was, significantly, it's unquestionably worth mentioning, and every conversation should include this, that was collectively bargained. So the union and the players, the players and the players union and the owners came to that decision about standing together. But the NBA allows every other kind of expression, and not only allows it, but as we heard from their commissioner, who's also a really decent guy, Adam Silver today. I mean, he was trolling the NFL too. They encourage it. You want to wear a Black Lives Matter T-shirt during warm-ups, have at it. The NBA encourages its players to be socially active and to be social justice warriors. I know it's a terrible phrase, to be a warrior for social justice.
Yeah, who would want to do that?
Hang their heads in shame. Yeah.
Yeah.
So God bless Steve Kerr, and for and there's another thing here that I love is that obviously that was before Game 5, and we'll leave out for a moment that they lost, but the arguments will be and are frequently in the NFL for why Colin Kaepernick's not signed, and even more outrageous, why his teammate Eric Reed, his teammate from San Francisco, Eric Reed, who's like somewhere between the 6th and 13th best safety in the league and is 26 years old and can't get a contract, isn't signed, is that the play, they say it's a distraction. And here's Steve Kerr, there's a time growing up, like in the 80s, where every coach would have said, I'm not going to talk about this stuff. We got a game to play. We're playing Houston tonight. They're a good ball club. We got to give 110% or we're going to be down 3-2. Hey, man, it's fine. You can answer a question and still practice and focus at the time on
Doesn't
your game.
it create more distraction to ignore what's happening in the country and have a bizarre, suppressed conversation when, adults who are influential in American life are getting asked questions about American life? Isn't that less distracting?
is complicated and distracting. Professional people
Right.
focus on the job at hand at the time when the job needs to be done. That's not. It's insane, but we've sort of bought into it that when I was interviewing baseball players when I worked in local news in Washington D.C. and we'd go, it'd be 5:08 and a game starts back then at 7:30. So there'd be 2 hours and 27 minutes before game, and they're taking. And I'd be like, hey, Randy, can I ask you a couple of questions? The Queen's going to visit today. Exciting to play a baseball game in front of the Queen of England. No, I mean it's the most innocuous thing in the world.
Right.
Hey man, I got to focus. I got to focus. The game's at 150 minutes, dude. You're batting sixth. You're not going to be up until the third inning. Calm down.
When the doorman at the building, when I walk in, he's like, "Hey man, good morning." I'm like, "Look, it's game time. I'm hosting today. Don't ever speak to me."
I know. I can't take this call, Michael. I got scripts I got to do later today. I got to be laser focused on these, or I'm going to screw them up.
Right. I mean, I just also want to add to the mix. I mean, I think Trump, not only yesterday in that clip with Brian Kilmeade, obviously feeding the frenzy of what happened with the NFL and endorsing the policy, which obviously is disgusting but not surprising, but actually saying like, they shouldn't even be in the locker room. Maybe they should leave the country. My mind kind of immediately goes to, first of all, the dog whistle of like literally go back to Africa. And also, I can't help but see it as potentially a little bit of a precursor of them. In 2020, I wouldn't be surprised if they start stripping birthright citizenship back on the table. I know, Ted Cruz, I think, alluded to that. And I don't know. I just think like this.
Surprised at all. Yeah, sure. I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more than about kneeling because, again, the NBA, they have to stand.
Right.
So,
but that's the key distinction. They all agreed to it as a collective bargaining process. The
NFL can agree to it, but then they got to let them protest in a different way. I mean, and sort of turning your players into robots when they are public figures that you profit off the fact that they're public figures. There's nothing to be afraid of. So the problem here is that you gave Trump a win, is that these powerful NFL owners sort of, and these, Dan Snyder's the worst person in the history of sports, second worst, I guess, not as bad as Donald Sterling. I don't really have anything to say about Dan Snyder. Just any conversation about the NFL, I like to mention how horrible a person Dan Snyder is and how no one should root for his team, the team I grew up rooting for. Yes. So giving these guys a win and giving Trump this political victory is horrible, and it's a terrible solution because it puts pressure on the teams to come out. What does it mean if they don't come out? You're going to divide a team because there'll be 31 players who want to come out and stand for the flag, and they obviously should be allowed to come out and stand for the flag if they want to do it. Ultimately, and it's now greeted with cynicism, but we don't need to play the anthem at all.
Right.
Before a sporting event. We don't do it before a rock concert when you see U2 or you go see whoever it is you see. They don't play.